Good afternoon and welcome. Sorry, I'm a couple of seconds late. Hello, Deborah. Thank you for joining. Well, yeah, we missed you last Friday, Deborah, but I'm really sorry to hear about your father. Yeah, but that would have been nice actually to be able to put the ashes together in one place, so you've got somewhere to go and visit. So lots of hugs for you there. That would have been a little bit of a sad day. Okay, so yesterday I got a delivery from Stampin Up. It had been a little bit of a while coming, but that was okay. And one of the things that I got was the Frosted Forest bundle. Now, this is in the online exclusives. And so that's where you'll find it. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Before I get too much more into this, I really do have to say welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining us. As I said, my name is Michelle. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin Up here in Australia, New South Wales. Please jump on and say hello. Let us know where you're from. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We are a chatty group and we do like to have a good chat while we're crafting. So please feel very welcome to join in with the chat. I know everyone will make you feel welcome. So let me get back to what I was saying before. Frosted Forest. It's in the online exclusive, so you won't find this in the catalogue. You've got 3 different trees in this. Now, this one here to me, well, both these ones here to me look like a little bit like a Christmas type tree, so you could use this at Christmas time. Great set for male-orientated cards. Hello, Anita. Hope it's not too cold there. Today actually is not too bad. My husband was over at Mittagong and he said Mittagong was actually quite hot. He had to take his jacket off. Barrel was cool. And I really have not been outside yet. A bit windy, but it's a nice clear sky, no clouds, which is always a good sign. But last week was a freezer. It was freezing last week, but then I think most of Australia was freezing. So anything's a plus after that. But I'm still got my fingers crossed, hoping we'll get snow. We'll see if that happens. Okay, so I thought we'd have a bit of a play with this. Now, what is in this bundle? In this bundle, of course, you get the stamp set, you get dies, and there's actually quite a few dies in this. Now, I bundle mine all up together, and you'll also get the masks, and I'll show you those in a minute. But let me just pull out the dies because there's quite a bit in this. And as I said, I've only just sort of opened it up yesterday, and I haven't really gone much further than that. But you've got the stamps, which stamps all of these trees here. You've got some beautiful sentiments. Then we have things like this die here, which would just cut out a tree, great for autumn or winter. And I was having a quick look on Pinterest this morning just to see what other people are doing. Saw some really nice designs done with some of our designer series paper that's got sceneries and so forth. So that's nice. The wind is cold and the sun is out. Yeah, sometimes, Anita, you get somewhere where there's no wind and even on a winter's day, it can be beautiful. So you have that one there, which is like a standalone tree. You also have this one here, which has a little bit of ground. So you die cut this, and of course, if you flip this the other way, that's the way it would actually sit on your card. But I'm showing you this way because you can see the intricacy of the die. So you have a little bit of groundwork here and then with 3 trees. Again, great for that autumn, winter. We're out of autumn now, but well and truly in winter. But we could still use that. And as I said, have you seen it with some of our lovely designer series paper? It looks really good. Hi, Joan. Not quite sure if it's going to rain or not, Deborah. Yeah, as long as it doesn't rain, we're happy. Then you have this tree here, which cuts out a lot of the detail. So It's quite interesting. As I said, I haven't even used these yet. I haven't played with them. Then you've got a smaller one, cuts out another tree with a lot of detail. You have this one here, which would cut out this larger tree stamp there. If I flip that around, you probably will fit on there. Sometimes these aren't to size, like the dies are slightly bigger because they can't fit them all onto the box. But this one here fits quite well. Then you have a smaller die which cuts out the outline, and that would cut out that smaller one. Okay. So that's really good. You've got a little bird here. We've got 2 bird dies. So you cut out 2 of those birds. You've got this die shape here which cuts out that bigger tree. And then you have this one here which is like all your leaves and everything. So that would go really well on top of that one. Okay, so you could cut your tree like that, and then in a piece of cardstock and one of your browns or your greys would look quite good in, what's the colour I'm trying to think of? It's a brown, but it's got a slight grey to it. It's one of the in colours. Someone can help me, that'd be great. Hi, Lee, how are you? And then you could cut that out as leaves to go on a tree if you want like a whole die cut type of image. So there's quite a bit in here that you could play with. And then, as I said, it came with the masks. So let me just pop all this away, or some of it away. I think most of that we're going to put away. This way, if I put them away now, I won't lose them for later on. I keep the cellophane bag they came in, and I pop everything back into there. And that way I can pack it all up into the one box, so everything's stored in the one place. So they're the dies that go with that. So let's just pop those to one side, and then let me bring out, there is 6 masks. Now, this big tree here, you can stamp that, and then you can colour it using the masks 1, 2, and 3. And then they have got 3 extra dies, masks, I should say, which would colour these 2 trees for you. So you've got, and they've numbered these A, B, and C. So you've got A, which gives you the first mask for both trees, B, the second mask for both trees, and then C, the third mask. Now, you may want to put a piece of paper or something over the top of the tree that you're not wanting to use, so you don't sort of accidentally get ink onto the other one when you're using this one here, because you do have the 2 on there. But then also too, if you're doing a landscape type card, you could use both of those trees on one card landscape. Yeah, the farmers will always need the rain. We complain when we've got rain, but then that's usually the townies, and it's usually the farmers again, but we need it, and they probably do, because even though it's relatively dry, even though we've had a lot of wet weather, and we've been so wet here, our ground has been like a big sponge. Up until about a month ago, we had weeks of rain and everything was very spongy. But we've got an odour coming from our laundry at the moment, which means that the pipes are drying out. So the ground is already drying out and the pipes are drying out, and it causes an odour. It's something we found out a few years back at another house we lived in, and it causes an odour to go back up through your pipes. And that's because everything's starting to dry. So our ground is starting to dry already. So farmers are definitely going to need rain. Anyway, let's get back onto this. Otherwise, I will keep chatting away. So we're going to be having a play with those. But when I was working out today what I was going to play with, I was having a look at this. This is the piece that comes with the masks. And it's just a little bit of an information pack, and it's in 4 different languages. And this is what it says. It is so easy. Just place the mask over the cardstock, fabric, or other material and add a little colour. And then they give you all these suggestions of how you can add your colour. You can spritz it using ink, chalk, or glimmer sprays. Not quite sure yet how you can spritz chalk, but one day I might have a play with this. The next one is you can sponge using ink or paint. Then the next one down is trace using markers. Excuse me. Then there is emboss using VersaMark ink and embossing powder. Or add texture using embossing paste. So if you want to give your trees a little bit of that Christmassy look, you can get a bit of embossing paste, especially the one that's got a bit of the glitter in it, and use that. Yeah, boiling water down the pipes, that'll do it. Yeah, that's what we've got to do. So we just haven't done it yet, but it is getting a little bit stinky when you open up the door in the morning because we close off all the doors to keep the heat in. So, but anyway, then there's a tip. To hold the mask in place, use temporary adhesive or temporary tape, such as painter's tape. Use just a bit use just a tiny bit of ink or paint. If you use too much, it'll seep under the mask. To clean, wipe off with a baby wipe or rinse off. Okay, so that got me thinking, how can we use these masks? Now, I'm always using the blending brushes. As you know, the last couple of weeks I've been doing a lot with blending brushes. So today I've come up with a different idea. Now, this is not a Stampin' Up product. I know Stampin' Up have carried these in the past, but that was quite a long time ago. This one's a Tim Holtz one. It's an air pump, and this piece here is to hold your a brush, such as what I'm going to be using today, our Stampin' Up markers in. And then you can pump or spritz with this to get colour onto your work. Had a little play, and I went, oh, I like that. So, and I think there's a lot you could do with this. You could get some really nice different green tones all layering on top of each other. But I'm just going to do the basics today because, as I said, this is just a play because I've only just started and I've got the idea for a card to put together. But we're going to have a play with this. So let's get started. So I've already got a piece of basic white cardstock here, and this piece should be 10 by 14.4. I will be cutting it down eventually because I do want to put a mat behind it. Hello, Debbie. Thank you for joining us. So you've had too much rain. Yeah, it's one way or the other. It's either not enough or a little bit too much. Now, I'm just going to put a little bit of adhesive onto my glass mat here, just so I can hold this down. And I'm going to pop that onto there. Actually, I probably should have. Oh no, that'll be okay. I was going to say I probably should just put a little bit of dusting or something on that, just so that it doesn't adhere permanently. But it should be okay. We'll make it work. And then I'm going to grab my masks. Now, I am using masks 1, 2, and 3, but I am going to do a little bit of stamping first off. So let's grab our large tree stamp because that's the one I've decided to play with as we're using masks 1, 2, and 3. And I want to stamp this image first. Now, this is just a little bit sticky on here because this is the first time it's been pulled off. I'm just being very, very gently taking this off because I don't want to stretch my stamp at all. So I'm just sort of crawling it off. We'll pop that to one side and let's grab a block. Now, I'm not quite sure which block's going to hold this the best. This is how sticky it is. It's already stuck to my glass mat. No, need one a bit bigger than that. Might need the biggest one. Let's grab this one. So let's just pop. Best way to do is just flop that onto the mat, and everything's going to end up nice and straight. Take your block straight down onto that. Give a little bit of a press and pull that up. Now I'm just going to clean this a little bit first. So I've just got my chamois here, just for the fact I haven't used this as yet. So I just want to give this a little bit of a wipe just to remove any residue. And I've just realised that I probably shouldn't be using my foam mat, but let's see how we go. Sometimes I find that even though I don't have a foam mat underneath, just for the fact that this is like an outline, it's not a solid image, I can stamp it quite okay. And I'm going to stamp this in my Memento Black. Let's flip this up, and we want to stamp that in the middle. Oh, okay. I put that down a little bit too quick. Didn't quite have that lined up. Let's just grab another piece of cardstock. Luckily, I've got quite a few here. So you just really want to make sure you've got everything where you want it to be. I'm just going to take a little bit of that stickiness off that. Pop that down. I'm just going to give this a little bit more of a gentle re-ink. This time, let's see if I can get my tree nice and straight. And stamp. Just give that a little bit of a light press. Just leaving it there for a few seconds just to let that ink absorb onto my cardstock. So there's that. And we'll just clear that down just so then get all that black ink off. My stamp. Okay, now I just saw something flick past me. Hi Lenny, how are you? Yeah, embossing powder would be fun to use on this stamp as well. And hi Pauline, how are you? Thank you for joining us. Okay, so there's that. So now let's grab our 3 masks. And I'm going to grab my first one and pop that down over the top. Now I've got another Stampin' Right marker here, and I'm just using the finer tip, and I'm going to just mark on here my V, and that will just wipe off later on. So I'm going to start with, now the colours I've chosen in my Stampin' Right markers are, I've got Pecan Pie, I've got Lemon Lime Twist, and I have got Granny Apple Green. So I'm going to start with my Pecan Pie, and let's grab this. So what we need to do is pop our brush carefully up through. Might just loosen that a little bit more. Pop our brush up through there and take it up until it's probably about that far from the top. So you want that nib well and truly up, otherwise the air won't get it. Tighten it up a little bit. Just be careful you don't want to break that nib. So let's pop this back down, lining up. Whoops, I think my paper has moved a little bit. Lining that up. It's a fairly easy one to line up, really. So, and then what we're going to do is we're going to give this a really good squeeze, and the air is going to flow past that brush tip and colour our tree trunk. So what it's doing is just spraying out little spritzers. It's just leaving little dots of colour. Now, I've only got one colour here, but if you can imagine, if you wanted multiple colours in your tree trunk, we might even just do that just a minute. I might grab, let's leave that there for a second, just bear with me, and I'm just going to grab a few more. Hi Joan, how are you? A couple of different other colours. So I think this could look quite effective. Okay. So I've grabbed here some extra greens, oops, and a couple of extra brown tonings. So who has got one of these pumps? Who has used them before? Who's got one that they've had for years sitting in the back of the cupboard and don't know or wasn't quite sure how you're going to get use out of them? I'd make sure you've cleaned that tip there, plastic tip there, before you put the next colour on, specifically if it's a light colour. You don't want to mix your colours too much. Make sure that mask is still nicely lined up. Now, probably if I had, actually, what if I got the tape out now? And I'll tape this down so I won't be worrying so much about this moving. Because we're going to be colouring this with a few different colours. Okay, that's better. Now we're going to give another colour. So this one here is crumb cake, and I'm going to give a little bit of crumb cake a spritz on this. Okay, so we've got a couple of different colours on there happening already, and it's just coming up like lots of little dots. And probably if I had done this the other way around, I would have started with my lightest colour first and worked up to my darkest, but I started with the middle colour. Now we're going to add a bit of this one. I'm taping it down with it's Post-it note tape. It's actually, I've got it from Officeworks here in Australia, and it's Burrows. So it's just Post-it note tape, lots of different colours, so it all looks very pretty, but I find it's quite handy and it's not too expensive and it's easy to get hold of. Okay, so let's just give this one a bit of a spritz with this colour. So now I've got Early Espresso. Now I don't want to put too much on that I'm going to be, one colour is drowning out another. All I want to end up with, so let's just take that off, and you just wipe your mask down later on with some baby wipes. So I'm just going to pop this to one side. Now I'm not going to lift this up just for the fact that I've got this mask down and I've got the mark there, but I'll show you when I'm finished how this is going to look. So it's sort of just given it a little bit of a mottled look. Not the whole, there is still some white space in that. The whole lot's not all covered up, but I think it's going to look quite effective, and probably more so once you see the leaves. So let's pop this next mask on. So this is our mask number 2. Again, lining up with our notch. And this time I'm going to start with my lemon lime twist. No, Pauline, Stampin' Up don't sell them anymore. They used to many years back. I've been in Stampin' Up for about 13 years now, I think, and I think they had them back then. This is a Tim Holtz one that I'm using. I've got this one because I used to do a lot of stuff with alcohol ink, and I found this was the easy way to push the alcohol ink around. And I was going to remove this piece, but now I'm glad I haven't. So anyway, let's just keep going. The more you pump it and squeeze it, you will get splatters of colour in different places. Some areas will be thicker than others because it's sort of, and the closer you get, further away you get, you're going to get a lot of lighter. So experiment with the amount of how far you go closer or further from the work. Angles, what angles are going to give you a different spray. So there's that one. Now there is a third mask in this one, so I don't want to go too overboard with my heavier colours because I want to use them for that mask, but I am going to use my Granny Apple Green for this one with this mask. So I'm using I used 3 colours with my mask 1. I'm using 2 colours with my mask 2. So let's give this one a bit of a squirt. And I'm just sort of trying to grab some of those areas that are a little bit white. Okay. So that's enough with that one, I think. Can you imagine what if you used all autumn colours, how this would come out? It could look quite effective. Okay, I'm just going to pop that one to one side now. You can start seeing that colour is building up. And let's grab our last mask and we'll line that notch up again, lining up a little bit with our design. Now this one here is a much smaller mask, as in the hole size, the areas that are open. Whoops, that just lifted then. So let me just line that up again. Now I've got 2 colours here and I'm not quite sure. I don't think I want to use both of them. We'll just see how we go. But I've got Garden Green and I've got Mossy Meadow. I think I'm going to use the Garden Green because it's in the same sort of yellow tones as the other one, whereas Mossy Meadow's got more of a brown tone to it. Okay, stick down. So grab this one. Probably should have a baby wipe to do that. Now you probably could use this also with your blends, but I'd just be very, very careful with your blends because you don't want to damage your brush tip. Whether these tips on these Stampin' Up markers have got a little bit more strength to them. Okay, so let's give this one a go. I'm not going to go too heavily handed with this one because I don't want to make it too dark. Might just turn that around. Okay. Beautiful. I'll wash them later on, just run them under the tap because they're a water-based ink. And let me just gently lift that up and have a look at that. So what do you think? It's not a solid colour. I don't know whether you can see that. It's like little splatters of colour, which I think, being a tree, gives it more of a realistic look. But there was someone recently who did a card using one of the other masks, and it came out like lots of little dots, and I'm just wondering whether they used something like that, because I've been trying to work out how they did it. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, there is something else I want to try, but I want to make sure I've got good control, and Blueberry Bushel I think is going to be too dark. May not work because I've only got Afternoon Azure. I don't actually have. I was sort of wanting to put a little bit of blue around here. I don't have all the colours, that's the problem. So what I might do is I'm going to go back to my Balmy Blue, and I'm going to go back to my blending brush, because we are going to do a little bit of mixture with this. Now, before I do that, I'm going to trim this down. So I want, from here, I want you would have thought I would have had it on the top. I want my rectangles. Now that's interesting. Either I've gone right past them, oh, I must sort out my craft room yet again. Don't know where I have put them. There's the deckled circles. Linny asked me the other day, have you sorted everything out yet? No, I haven't. And this is probably a good example of it. I haven't sorted them all out yet, and that's them there. Now that's Stylish Shapes. Sorry about this, guys. I usually have everything out, but they're probably... Well, it looks like we're not going to do that. I'll go back to idea number 1, and let's just trim this down. It will still work. Okay. I want to trim this down to... All I want to do is take a bit off the side of that, and I think I've got it more on one side than the other, so that's fine. So I've cut that down to I've cut it down to 9.5. I was going to do 9.7, so let's take off. We've got 14.4. We have to take off 0.5 centimetre, so I'm doing a little bit bigger than I would normally. That's fine. And we're going to grab my blending brush, my Balmy Blue, Yes, it would be lovely if you all gave me a thumbs up on this, Deborah. And if you haven't liked my channel, please like it. It'll be really good. So all I'm going to be doing is just adding a little bit of blue around my card, just so that, and onto the card. So I'm really just going over around the edges. I'm not bringing and coming in a little bit. I'm not coming in too much because I don't want to go over my tree. But I do just want to give it a bit of a bit of blue into my background. And I'm just thinking, I have got so much colour sitting on these masks. I'm going to use my colour off that and grab, these have been cleaned. So I'll use that brush. And I'm going to grab some of the colour off this one. No wasting today. I'm just adding colour that's sitting on these masks at the moment because it's just sitting there. And I'm going to add that around. Now, they're two different colours I've added on there too, because it's got granny apple green and lemon lime twist. So I've made up a new colour. How about that? So there we go. I've got a little bit of colour on there. So that's that. As I said, this is all just an experiment really, because I haven't played with this as yet. Now, I've got two different mats. My card base, let me just wipe this down first before I get colour everywhere where we don't want it. Got that bit of sticky in the middle of my mat. That's, need to get that off. So let me just grab a little bit of alcohol here, and that should squeeze that onto there, and that should lift that up. A bit of alcohol will clean a lot of things. Hasn't cleaned that real well yet, but it will do. Have a good bit more of a go at that later on. So here's our card base. Now, our card base is 10.5 by 29.9. Oh, everything's just gone fallen. And I'm going to score that at 14.9. Take that cutting blade right out of the road. I think today might be a bit of a day for reorganising my craft room, even though it's not too bad. I've still got to work out where everything is going to finally go, even though I've been in here now for a few months. Okay, so there's that. Now, it's either I'm going to do, and this colour is granny apple green, and do a matte in that colour. Thank you, Deborah. Hello, Nicole. Or this is balmy blue. And I'm actually thinking I like the balmy blue. I think it's just giving it a much softer sort of look. Because I want this card to be either masculine or feminine. It doesn't have to be just one. That's the way my card base is going to go. So let's trim this down. So I ended up cutting this at 13.9 and I want to cut it at 14. Let's make it 3. So that's 14.2. this piece here, we ended up 9.5. I want to cut it at 9.8. So I'm making it 3 millimeters bigger than my basic white piece that we worked on. So that's just going to go on there like that. That's looking good. Now we can either stamp our sentiment and everything directly onto this, or we could lift it up. The other thing I wanted to do was actually put a couple of those little birds on here. So I'm going to grab a couple of scrap pieces of cardstock, and I want to grab another piece that maybe I could do my sentiment on. So keep your scraps. I don't keep every single scrap. This is probably about the smallest I keep. And I need a stamp with that lovely little bird on it. And then the other thing I want to look at is what sentiment can we use? Birthday wishes for a day as great as you are. I think I like that because I can give that then to a male or a female. It's not just very feminine. I won't call it a New Year's resolution, but I did say at the beginning of this year I wanted to do a bit more stamping orientated for men. So I'm trying to do that with some of these. I don't normally buy stamps with trees and everything on it. I don't know why, but just it's not something. I tend to like the flowers, the roses and that sort of thing. So it's good to have something a bit different. And what I want to do is I'm going to grab my Memento ink, and I'm going to stamp at least 2 of these little birds. Remember, we do have 2 dies that we can cut that out with. And the other thing I want to stamp while I've got that memento out is actually that sentiment. So let's just stamp that right in the middle. And I'll clean those in a little while. And with the little birds, I have got here my blends in the light balmy blue and dark balmy blue. And I'm just going to start with my light, and I'm going to use the fine tip end and just put a bit of colour on these. Now you could even spritz these if you had the balmy blue in your Stampin' Right markers, which could look quite effective. And if I had it in the markers, I was thinking of spritzing all the way around the edges of that as well, just to follow through on that little speckled sort of look. Now, because these are so small, I'm not really worrying too much about blending. I'm just putting a little bit of the darker balmy blue around its tail and its wings. Just want to add that little bit of colour. Just, whoops, there we go. And then we also want to work out what we're going to cut that with. So, I've got my stylish shapes here. Let's have a look what we've got. Let's just see if that one fits onto there. Yes, it does. That will work really well. So let me grab my mini cut and emboss machine. And we need 2 dies for those little birds which are in here. There's one. There's the other one. I can see how I could turn this tree and the birds into an Australian theme. Blackbirds with red tails. Yes, you could. You could very much do that. I was this morning going through the photos of the holiday that Joe and I took because I want to start making my album very soon. And with some of those photos, we actually went to the Miramara, what's it called? Miramara Rainforest. And I was thinking I could actually use this big tree as a way of decorating my page that I'm going to decorate or put my photos onto. So I think, yes, you could use that tree and make it very Australian. And the birds are quite the generic sort of shape, so I think it would work quite well. Okay, so there's our sentiment. So now we just have those 2 little birds, so pop that on there. Now I'm going to use that tape again. Actually, I'll see if I can make these 2 pieces work. Just to tape those down so they don't move. I think one of them has just moved a little bit. Now, whether I'm going to use both of these birds or just use one, I don't know yet, but at least we've got 2. Okay, so let's pop this card together. Last of the glue out of this tube, so pop that on there just like that. And there's my card base. Just a very, very simple and basic little card. And I'm just wondering, I'm just going to grab from behind me, bear with me 1 second. My linen thread. think we just need a little bit extra natural dimension on this. And I've got a very old linen thread here, and it's actually slightly browner. I'm going to use it. It's how old it is. It's still the card. We haven't had it like that for a long time. Okay. Now, there it is. That's going to sit just about there like that. And I want it just off slightly. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of this seal right there. Without tying a bow, because I was watching somebody do this yesterday on YouTube. And I thought, well, that's actually because you tie a bow and you've got this great big huge thick knot in it. And I don't necessarily want the thick knot, but I do want the look of a bow. And I thought, so simple. Create it yourself. And I thought, well, why not? Takes seeing somebody else to do something. You think, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. So you can create the look of a bow without actually making a bow. And probably you've all done that, and it's not just me. Speaking of long nails, I had a giggle at the bright young thing on the bus. Her fake nails were so long that she couldn't swipe the phone. Yeah, that's a problem with nails. But you get them, some people sometimes are so long that they just... You wonder how they can do things. I'm not going to say what I'm thinking, but it's just like, you must be so limited. But mind you, my nails aren't the best nails. My nails are very weak. They're longish. They need a good cut. They're natural. But the other week, I lost a nail off my thumb. And the things that I want to do, I can't do. Okay, so let's pop that. Oh, pretty. Might just trim that one off a little bit, just so it matches the other one. And we've just got our tiny little birds here to add. So what I might do is use a glue dot for those. I want one just about there. So these are sort of like, instead of a little bit of bling, just going to use, just putting a glue dot on the back of them. Pop the other one up there. So there you go. Quite a simple card, using a different sort of tool and taking the idea from what's written on the masks. So there we are, using a spritzer and getting lots of variety of colour on that, not only just to colour our tree trunk, but to colour all those leaves as well. So have a look at the back of your masks, and there's still like the sponging, trace with your markers, emboss with a VersaMark and use embossing powder, and using paste. So try out some of those ideas. Give them all a go and see what you can come up with. I'm actually quite happy with the way that that's turned out. and a great card for, either a male or a female. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Thank you very much for joining me today. If you're on my YouTube channel, please like and share. Same with on Facebook. And hopefully we can try something else different again next week. So have a lovely weekend. Take care. Stay safe. Nicole, what have you got here? You can also dry emboss with the masks too. Yes, you can. You can run it through. But you need the foam mat. I think I've still got that from, though would a silicone mat work? That might even work as well. But I think you need that mat. I haven't tried it myself, but I think you need a mat to give it a bit of sponginess to let that go through. But anyway, look, basically what I'm saying is play with some of these techniques, try them, experiment. That's what today was all about. As I said, I hadn't even played with this as yet, but having something like this, it's been sitting in the drawer here for a long time, not being used. So I've actually now been inspired to get out some of my other masks, especially with the Enduring Beauty and so forth, and have a bit of play with the Spritzer and doing all those sort of like little splattery sort of looks and see what we can come up with. Yeah, the silicone mask, that's what I thought, because I know that Stampin' Up brought out, when they had the big shot, there was some silicone mats that they brought out to be used with that sort of thing, and I've got them here somewhere. I just haven't used them. And not that I've got the big shot anymore, but you can still use them with your cut and emboss machine. Okay, so as I said, take care, have a lovely weekend, stay safe, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye for now.